Welcome to 13 Degrees of Screams,
where we screen so you don't scream.
We're your host, Alex.
And Stephanie.
And this week, we tempt fate by dying and coming back to life in Flatliners.
Before we get started, make sure you subscribe and click the bell to be notified when we post new episodes.
Flatliners is a 1990 American science fiction psychological horror film directed by Joel Schumacher. Seeking answers about the afterlife, Chicago medical students end their lives and resuscitate each other in the nick of time. As experiments become more perilous, each is forced to contend with the paranormal consequences of trespassing on the other side. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 50% with a critical consensus that states, while it boasts an impressive cast, striking visuals, and an effective mood, Flatliners never quite jolts its story to life. It also has a 59% audience score.
Nelson Wright, a medical student and complete idiot, persuades his classmates Joe, David, Rachel, and Randy to join him in an experiment to uncover what happens after death, because that sounds like a completely sane and normal idea.
Especially to a scientist and a genius like yourself.
Essentially threatening to do it himself until the others show up, Nelson becomes the first to flatline, stopping his heart for 1 minute before being revived. During this time, he encounters a vision of himself playing as a child, but it takes a dark turn. Though he doesn't share the details because he's a shithead, he hints at the existence of something beyond death. Inspired, the others lose all sense of self-preservation and take turns flatlining.
You know those days when you're like, this might as well happen? Adult life is already so goddamn weird.
Joe is next and has some sexy time, experience erotic visions of women. David follows on Halloween, seeing kids on a playground in grade school. Soon the group begins to suffer hallucinations linked to their visions. Nelson gets wrecked by a child, being physically attacked by Billy Mahoney, one of the kids from his vision. Joe is haunted by the women he secretly videotaped during sex, and David is haunted by a girl from school known as Winnie Hicks, who roasts him on the subway train.
Burp wide, near bite, jug off, lip wrist, banana breath, bird, turd face, kiss down nose, macho wimp, face, Somatic gonna cry, gonna cry, baby Davy, cry, face,
Despite all the men in the group finding her incredibly attractive, Rachel decides to flatline alone with these bozos, and David runs in at the last minute to stop her. She nearly dies when an inconveniently timed power outage disrupts her revival, but she survives, only to be haunted by memories of her father's suicide, which she blames herself for. The group shares their disturbing experiences, and David resolves to confront his past.
You can stop whenever you want. It'll only make our relationship better. I've never felt like this before.
I'm tired of playing defeat.
Of course I respect you.
You can stop whenever you want.
Meanwhile, Joe's fiancée, Anne, thankfully discovers his secret tapes and ends their relationship, which brings an end to his hallucinations. Does it, though? I don't feel like it was implied.
David seeks out Winnie, now an adult, and apologizes for his past cruelty. She forgives him, lifting his burden. Nelson, however, struggles with guilt as he reveals he accidentally killed Billy as a child. His hallucinations intensify, and he seemingly begins to harm himself, believing Billy is attacking him. David intervenes, and the group works together to help Nelson confront his past.
Rachel, meanwhile, finds closure when her father's spirit appears, explaining his struggles with PTSD and addiction as he asks for forgiveness. Nelson runs off determined to make amends and decides to flatline again, because dying is easier than just saying sorry. His friends race to save him after he has been dead for 9 minutes. In the afterlife, Nelson takes Billy's place and is killed but is forgiven. His friends manage to revive him, bringing the experiment to a close. Do they reveal their findings? Why was Randy even here when he never flatlined? Does Joe need to apologize to all the women he taped 51st State style? Guess we'll never know. The movie's over. Flatliners explores the concept of life after death as medical students push the boundaries beyond the human experience in the pursuit of knowledge. Through their experiments, unresolved traumas are revealed, and they learn that their actions have lasting consequences. Ultimately, the film examines how seeking redemption is the key to moving forward, offering a suspenseful journey of psychological turmoil while facing the weight of personal sins.
Are you ready to talk about our ratings?
Yeah, let's do it.
What did you give Plot?
I gave it a 2. I would say the setup is interesting if you don't question too hard why any of them would truly risk their lives and careers for this. I think the characters are individually unique, but when we get into their visions, it suddenly feels too similar, with 2 of the 4 of them having a bullying scenario. Granted, one is way worse than the other, but overall just not what I expected on the premise.
Okay.
How about you?
I gave it a 3. I wrote, the plot is simple yet effective. While on paper it would seem rather ridiculous that these characters would go to such lengths to research the afterlife, each character's motivation is believable and their backstories are interesting. Then the mystery of what came through after flatlining propels the story, with each character's past unraveling. First of all, I guess I'll just say, I really like this movie.
Oh,
And
okay.
I really like the idea. I think it, like, to what I said, I think it's simple, but I think it's effective.
Interesting. I wanted it to be a little different. I wanted it not to be like these past traumas coming to get them, but like, spirits from the afterlife or something like that. Like, I kind of pictured like more or less like the demons from Ghost coming to get them, when I heard this concept, and I was like, that would be really interesting. Like no matter what, they're going to be like pulled in somehow because they saw what they shouldn't have.
Right.
But then to come down to an I'm sorry, and then we're all good here. It just was like, ow.
Yeah, I guess. For me, I actually like that it's not spirits because it's different to me. I was telling Nick about what this movie was about because I saw it when I was younger, at least parts of it. I don't know if I ever saw it all the way through, but I described it as, these people basically kill themselves and come back to life. And I think I had said, like, spirits come back. But that's not what they are, because...
Right. I pictured they would all be dead, considering, but...
Yeah, but when he's alive and he's like a evil version of her, like taunting him. Mm-hmm. So I was pleasantly surprised to learn that they weren't actually spirits, just because it is different, while ultimately I don't think makes a ton of sense. It's at least a different premise than just going with a ghost or a spirit.
Fair enough.
So I appreciate that.
Okay. What did you have for atmosphere?
So I gave atmosphere a 3. I said, taking place in Chicago, this movie is full of grit, grime, and beauty. From the almost gothic church-like architecture of the medical school to the dark streets of Chicago, this movie has an overall sense of danger and mystery that kept me freaked out throughout the movie.
I also had a 3. I think they're really doing something here. There's interesting lighting to show the shifts between the real world and what's beyond. Everyone's interpretation of the afterlife looks different stylistically, whether it be direct memories or like evolving images. It's very interesting, and every time someone agrees to go next to Flatline, I'm like, bad idea, but I want to see what their world is like. Mm-hmm. And yeah, to add to what you said too, like the architecture of the church and everything where they're in, sometimes it almost feels like they are just in like one large building, living, doing this experiment, working and stuff like that, because it just keeps like evolving. Mm-hmm. Or I don't know, blurring the images together in a way. But the architecture also of Chicago and where they're working out of is pretty as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't even mention the whole, like, I guess, afterlife. And I love the way it was filmed, because we have Nelson, who has a sweeping shot of this field and kids running. And then you have like the red tones of Julia Roberts' character, Rachel.
Yes, Rachel.
So that was like a theme. Like anytime she saw her dad, it was like a red light. So they really played with lighting, to your point. And that, I think they did a great job with that.
Right. And I honestly, when they first reveal Nelson's, like, he's the first to flatline. So when they go into this, I was like, oh, this is like sort of like the afterlife in Lovely Bones. It's just a field with children playing. I didn't realize he was one of the kids.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, oh, yeah, that sounds nice. Like, sure, why not? And I was like, maybe that's what they're trying to get across, that everyone will see this like similar situation, but it's not even that at all.
Yeah. No, everyone has their own little personal thing. Yeah. I thought Joe's was interesting with the women.
Yeah. At one portion, I think in the very beginning, I'm like, are they saying that he's just been given birth? Well, he was just expelled.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were like, a boy. And then I was like, oh, did he just come out of the water and he was born, kind of thing?
Yeah, I don't know what the hell that was all about.
It was very weird.
You know what this reminded me of? And it's going to sound like such an insult to this movie.
What?
It reminded me of Fear.com. Like the way, like
no,
the women,
the shoddy images of women. Yeah, a little bit.
like on the TVs, I kept thinking of, do you want to play a game? Or like whatever she says,
Right.
do you want to hurt me or whatever? I'm like, oh my God, that's what I'm getting from these images. I was like, no, not fear.com.
No, not again. And then, to be fair, though, he had it coming. Like, I don't even care if they resolved his issue because, like, he deserves it.
Yeah.
And I love that his ex-fiance was totally a girl's girl and was like, you know, you're going to think I'm leaving you because of the cheating, but I'm really just so upset about all those women being taped and feeling so bad for them. That's why I'm leaving you. And I was like, good job, Anne. Thank you.
Like, good for her.
Right.
Yeah, he was the one character I really didn't care. Like,
I was like, and then I like that how his torture was basically being sexually harassed, like by like all the women in the videos. They're like, we can get together sometime. Like,
yeah, it's kind of like, how do you like it?
Right.
You know?
Yeah, he was just being catcalled. I was like, well, that seems justified.
Right. That's what you get.
Mm-hmm.
What did you give Suspense?
I gave it a 2. Definitely suspenseful at times, but a little silly when it seems like just kids are coming after them before we know anything about like Billy being murdered. It just seems like so little kids from the afterlife are just gonna like whoop them. Like that's
He gets hats handed to him.
Right, every day.
Mm-hmm.
However, anytime Nelson was alone and you could hear his dog crying, you just knew Billy was about to show up and kick his ass. I didn't give it a full 3 because it didn't seem to escalate to me really, only Nelson's paranoia. So, yeah, I felt bad for his dog. His dog died in the incident as well. We kind of brushed past it. But I was like, why do we have so much animal death today? Like,
don't know. It's so sad because he sees visions of the dog like limping around. I'm like, what did he do to his dog?
Right.
And then I found out he killed a kid. I'm like, okay. No, I'm just kidding.
Jesus.
Just a child.
Right. Yeah, I was like, Nelson, like, why did you want to die? Like, you had all of this baggage going in. You should have known that you would have to. He thought he repented, I guess. I don't know.
Well, Nelson was the first one to go, so he wouldn't have necessarily known what was going to happen.
I guess, but like, if you felt like you had this big secret, this big trauma, you know, of a crime, like, I guess he said he was sent away from his family and he had to go to a boys' school or something. But I think he felt like he made up and paid his dues. But to me, it didn't seem like potentially dying and going into the afterlife and maybe not being able to come back. You'd be like, well, I'm gonna have to deal with this somehow.
Right. Oh, you mean at the end when he flatlines again?
No, I mean even just going in, like wondering about like your own morals, you know, like what if they're gonna like weigh my heart in the feather kind of situation, or you know,
I
like
see
that.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, so I don't know. I don't know if he would believe in that kind of moral judgment, or he didn't even think about, you know, it happened so long ago. It's kind of like, okay, I moved on from that.
Yeah,
I didn't
maybe.
realize it was going to be this big thing that is now haunting me, literally.
Right. And I wonder if he would have, like, you know, say he didn't get revived, if it was going to be like something he would have to come to terms with to get into the other side, you know?
Yeah, I guess
I'm curious if all of them would have to make amends with all of that to cross over.
Then also, like, are these the worst of the worst things that are in the back of their head? Or like, not, I don't want to diminish how bad bullying is, but if that was Kevin Bacon's worst thing, you know, like he bullied
like honestly,
when he was a kid, I'm like, like if I were to flatline, I'm like, I'm sure I like made fun of someone in the past, you know, and like they could come back and haunt me now.
Right.
Oh my God.
I took a piece of candy from a store. Like, oh no.
The store owner's gonna come kill me.
Yes.
So it's just interesting what ended up coming through, or what was like their big sin, you know? And
I just wish they would have like chose something a little different for Kevin Bacon's character, because I was like, well, with Nelson's being so extreme, that I'm just like, oh, well, it's just another bullying issue, unless she's dead too and you guys are friends because you're murderers. Like, yeah,
I was gonna say that would have been like a twist to find that like Winnie died or something and he didn't get that chance to apologize.
Right.
I mean, I'm glad she didn't. So, but Like, yeah, Kevin Bacon specifically was probably like, felt like a throwaway one. They could have come up with something different, I thought.
They're like, well, we need Julia Roberts to fall in love with him, so he can't be too bad.
Right. I know, right? No, can't happen.
Right. But also, I mean, Nelson was a contender. He's also the vampire from The Boys. Like, not The Boys. Lost Boys. Yeah.
Mm.
So, but it's so funny to me. I looked it up. I was like, Lost Boys came out before this, but he looks so much older in Lost Boys.
You think so?
Yeah, but as the movie goes on, he just has like, I don't know, a face that like the more turmoil you put him through, the more rugged and like older he looks, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably what happened. You know, not sleeping and being haunted by a kid you accidentally killed.
Yeah.
It'll do some things to you.
I'm sure it would. What did you have for suspense?
I gave it a 3. I said, each flatline attempt builds tension, and each new horror that appears ramps it up. Flatliners continuously build suspense and terror. Each character that goes through the deadly experiment is in danger constantly, and the threat can appear at any time, making this a top-tier suspenseful experience. I don't know. This movie stressed me out, and I will preface this by saying I watched it in bed at night, so I don't know if it just, like, hit right, but each time they flatlined, like, that, each time they got closer and closer, or they were in there longer and longer, like, it just tensed me up, and then now we have to deal with the trauma that comes with that, right?
Right.
So it just keeps exponentially getting worse. I'm like, oh my God, they all have these things coming after him, and then they almost died every time they did this. Like, what are we doing?
And then for me, too, it wasn't even like the trauma that was coming after. It was just the fact that they were letting them stay under so long. I was like, when they went past 5 minutes, I was like, well, this person's brain dead. Like,
yeah.
Like, what are we doing? They can't tell you anything about this now. And they just like get them all up like they've just had a bad night of drinking or something, and they're just like, yep, we'll just keep going. Like,
I don't know if that's how that would work, but okay.
I don't think so. Like, I feel like Nelson, especially like after like 9-10 minutes or whatever, however long he was gone, like he is not okay.
No.
He's not going to be a doctor anymore. Like,
he's not the same any longer. But yeah, that just, those moments just really stressed me out. I would say more so than even just what they were dealing with in terms of their trauma coming through and their sins coming to get them. It just kept building for me.
Fair. What did you have for the danger aspect?
You're going to be shocked. I gave it a 3.
Oh, okay.
I said,
really?
I did. I'm telling you, we'll get it when we get to then. But I said throughout the film, we had the danger of dying by flatlining and then the consequences that follow. Once they survive the flatline, the dangers can appear at any moment with varying degrees of physical interaction. As if being beaten up by a kid isn't bad enough, the emotional turmoil brought on by the sins of their past is ever present and persistent.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I gave it a 1.
Okay.
And I said I gave it a 1. Obviously, your trauma or past coming back to bite you would suck, but I think it also depends on the skeletons you have in your closet. Like, if you killed someone or committed a crime, obviously don't flatline. Like, just don't do that.
Don't do it.
However, if you even had the chance to do so, I feel like most people can get out of it with an apology, apparently. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. I feel like even Nelson probably could have. He just never actually spoke and said he was sorry to Billy's grave. And he just decided, like, I'll just go and face him head on. Like, I think he could have, paid amends to the grave and probably been okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't really consider, like, all you really have to do is apologize, I guess. But is that a foolproof thing? I don't know. We had Joe who just kind of got caught. Like, is he no longer seeing visions anymore? I don't know. I
don't know. I thought they kind of left it open-ended, like he would have to make amends after everyone else's because everyone else's was so, like, dangerous, I guess. Mm-hmm. And, no one cared about Joe.
Whatever. Screw Joe.
Yeah, but I figured he would just have to go and apologize to everyone that was involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I also gave it a 3 because they are essentially dying and they are killing themselves. I'm like, what more danger could you put yourself in? I mean, it's one of those situations, and we say this all the time, like, this is truly avoidable if you just don't do this.
Right.
However, this is what happened in the movie, so that's what I'm kind of judging it on at this point, that they were doing that. So I'm like, what worse could happen besides just actually dying? which is what they're doing. So
Yeah.
I had to give it the 3.
No, that's fair. I just kept on thinking about, like, chances are of you doing this.
Slim to none.
Yeah.
Well, not slim to none. Literally 0. I would never do that.
Right. Like, unless you have, like, an accident or something. But, that's not of your own volition. So, yeah,
Right.
I don't know. I think just the trauma coming to get you, and it's just can be resolved with sorries, which is cool, like I'm sure that's what they wanted the 90s to think. Like, you don't have to do therapy, just say you're sorry to that one person, you'll be good.
Like, good to go. I mean, it's a nice
place
sentiment.
to start.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like, let's start there. There's still work to be done, but hey, acknowledging that you messed up and then working to resolve that, I think that's a nice start.
Yes.
At the very least. Did you give the movie your extra special point?
I didn't. It just wasn't what I expected based on concept. I didn't feel any particular way about it and probably wouldn't watch again, honestly. It was just meh for me. How about you?
So I did, which means this is my first 13 on the show.
You gave it a 13?
Girl, this
Jesus.
affected me. It really got to me. I don't know if it's like... I don't know if I'm like realizing I have a fear of death or like, I don't know what it was, but I was stressed the whole time. Even the kids scared me. I don't know why.
Really? Okay.
Billy freaked me the fuck out. Yes.
Damn. Okay. Yeah. Like, I went on a walk after this. I was like, just fine. Like,
no,
just an average day.
And again, I don't know if it was like the fact I watched it in bed at night. I've never done that with any movie we covered, so I don't know if it was just like
maybe. I mean, if you have the lights turned off and everything, maybe it could kind of set a different vibe.
Yeah, and it's weird because I wouldn't have thought that. I don't know. It did get to me, so I gave it the point. I wanted to give it my first 13 of the show. So
well, damn. All
there
right.
it is. Flatliners freaked me out. Yeah, it got to me.
Okay. Would you watch again?
Yeah, I liked it.
Okay.
I mean, here's the thing. Here's the thing. It freaked me out, but I'm not like terrified. You know what I'm saying? Like, for me, it's hard to even scare me, period. So like when a movie does get to me, I have to give it, kudos.
Give it its dues.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm like, yeah, I think this is time to give my first 13. So.
Well, all right.
Good
We got it out of them. I don't know how. But we did.
Girl, I could not tell you how that happened, but also, even the women just showing up on screen, like, that unsettled me so much.
That's fair. It did have a fear.com vibe, but yeah, it was ominous. Like, they would like directly talk to him, and yeah, I don't know.
Also,
if it evoked these emotions in you, sure, you're justified.
I know. And also, like, just going through the categories of each thing, like, it just shook out to be 3 for each. So I'm like, yeah, here we are.
All
Flatliners. Right. So yeah, tallying it up, I gave it a 13 and you gave it an 8.
Yeah.
Middle of the road. Wow.
Sorry.
No, I don't care. How dare you not be scared?
I don't know. Apparently I'm not afraid to die. I don't know.
Bye, Stephanie. No,
bye. No kidding. No, I'm definitely terrified. But
yeah. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy the show and listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, giving us a 5-star rating is super helpful and we'll always appreciate it. If you're watching the YouTube version, you can like and comment on this video and let us know what you'd like us to cover next.
You can find us on social media using 13 Degrees of Screams.
This has been 13 Degrees of Screams, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.